I'm also a firm believer in scheduled cries.
Scheduled cries.
Scheduled
I've never
cries.
heard of that.
You do it, you get right back to work. Wipe.
Wipe.
Right back to my desk.
In this day and age, it is maybe one of the easiest times to build a company.
Yeah.
With AI, I mean, now I don't have to focus on if I know if there's a bracket here, right? I just need to
How do
understand.
your families feel about you doing this?
I think at first, my mom and dad were very, they were interested in the idea. They were like, oh, what's this cute little project he's working on, you know? But I think as we became more...
At the end of the day, like when we're in the grave, no body is better than the other.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so,
I guess I'm philosophical. You know, I thought when you said...
Welcome to Tech Founders. It's a podcast where we interview hardworking, creative students like these guys who are building Boardroom. I want you guys to give a little introduction as to what Boardroom is, and also introduce yourselves, like what your names are. And
Okay. So my name is Nain. I'm a third-year electrical engineering student at the University of Waterloo, and I love engineering.
great. I'm Esther. I'm a third-year management international business student here at UofT.
how'd you come up with this idea?
I think, so I'm in electrical, but that also includes like a lot of computer engineering students, and they're
Yeah.
very interested in software, right? So I see all the platforms that they have to demonstrate their skills beyond just handing in a resume. So there's hackathons where they can go and, meet industry partners and show them exactly what they can do. They're not just a name on a paper, right? But
Yeah.
as an electrical engineering student, that's often not the situation that you face, right? Like all you have is the resume to hand in. And so having experienced that firsthand, it's kind of how we developed the idea to, this is a problem clearly that not only I'm facing, but, fellow students of mine and colleagues with these lack of resources, these lack of opportunities to get in front of the people that we need to. And that's kind of what I would say propelled us to pushing forward the idea.
And like Amon, you probably used Leetcode before, right?
Yeah.
And just like that, it's like if I want to learn Java or HTML, it's so easy. It takes me 2 seconds. I searched it up online. But try learning engineering online. It's not the
Very
same
hard.
kind of process. Yeah. And I mean, engineering is a hard thing in general, but the lack of resources is really there.
Yeah.
And furthermore, like as a business student, there's like some pretty tight recruiting pipelines for us. So even in first year and second year, there's recruiters that are coming to the school that are discussing it with you. You have to go through rounds of interviews, conceptually, etc. And so this ensures that not only are you getting the best qualified candidates, but also your workforce is better for long term, right? When you're working on these projects, you're having people who can do the best possible work. However, alternatively, it's not really the same kind of vetting done at such an early stage for electrical engineering or other automotive industries. So in that space, we really want to help improve that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's no solutions right now out there? There's something called AutoCAD, electrical CAD, or something like that?
Well, electrical AutoCAD, I'd say, is more of a tool for experienced engineers to use. It's not necessarily a learning tool, first and foremost. There are like a few tutorial videos, but it's very specific to the software.
Yeah.
And I'd also say that Boardroom's not necessarily a tool for career use. It's a tool for career development and a recruiting solution. And AutoCAD electrical isn't really in that same space. Boardroom focuses on, introducing the right qualified candidates to electrical engineering industries, whether it be manufacturing, whether it be automotive. Whereas electrical AutoCAD is very focused on, okay, let's say I'm working at Ford, for example, and I need to design something that requires an electrical schematic. That's when I'd use that platform. So it's not necessarily a learning tool, it's more of a use tool.
I see. So it's kind of like, for example, like Desmos versus like,
I don't know.
it's just like-
I feel like here, to give you an example of somebody who would use something of our platform, if
Yeah.
you're a student, you go, I really want this job at Ford. And the thing is, you can learn a bunch of things as an electrical engineering school, but that doesn't translate to the real world problems you're going to have in the workplace. And so how can Ford get people who are going to be able to tackle these real world problems? And how can you get access to these real world problems, right? And so we're going to open an open competition, whether that's just to Waterloo or just to Toronto. And then students will have the opportunity to come on and compete with a real world problem. So for example, like Nain mentioned, debugging a circuit, right? We'll give you a circuit and a limited time frame. You have to solve and debug the circuit, and then you have to explain, how did I solve and build a circuit, right? Something that I think is really underlooked in the engineering space, unfortunately, is soft skills, right? And so that ability to not only just solve things, they're geniuses, right? But also explain, and because there's so many other teams and functions in a business.
Yeah.
And so you're going to be tested on your technical ability and then your soft skills ability, and then we give our top rankers to the company. So now you have the best candidates for an issue that your company is facing.
I see. Interesting. So you guys are a tech company, though, right?
Yeah.
But you're
Yeah.
also, so I guess you're also doing these events and things like that.
So the tech is embedded in the event, right? So, like when she says a competition platform, when we say competition, that is kind of like a vetting resource for the industries, right? But the tech is embedded in it. So in the competition, the technical models, or I can explain both of the models if it would kind of help to demystify Boardroom. So there's two types of models. There's the technical model, where it essentially will solve a candidate's response. So let's say it is the debugging question that Esther was talking about. It would see how fast they did it, the accuracy with which they solved it, and then it would aggregate a score based on that.
Yeah.
The soft skills model actually hilariously wasn't originally a part of Boardroom, but then after multiple conversations with hiring managers, and if you've ever spoken to many engineering students, often soft skills are something that's sorely not focused on as much as technical skills are. And so the platform there will take a 1-minute solution, listening to somebody explain, oh, so I started looking at this component and I started looking at this component, but then it, understands how well they communicated that solution, and then takes it one step further and tries to draw conclusions about other soft skills they may possess, like their organization of thought, for example. And so you're getting that holistic understanding of a candidate using the technology in this competition style to then use for their recruitment.
Interesting. I mean, honestly, like I think for engineering students, there's a whole stigma for comp sci students as well. Like, we're not touching grass. We're not taking showers.
Get it together, guys.
So yeah, I mean, like, that's good if you're pushing them to like, be more social, be more extroverted, and
But
things
it's not
like
even
that.
pushing. Like my last co-op, for example, my whole job was really understanding the tech and then communicating that to business, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter if you create the best technology ever if you can't explain it to somebody who doesn't know technology.
Yeah.
And so a key factor that I think is very overlooked is the importance of being able to communicate what you're working on.
Oh, 100%. So I want to get into you guys a little bit. So what's entrepreneurship's a hard thing, right? What's driving you to do this? Right, it's tough. And what inspires you to keep pushing?
I think for me, very simple answer, I just can't do a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Like a regular old 9 to 5. I need it to be my own. I need it to be, if I'm working on something, I truly have a stake in the game. And I'm not saying that, like people do great work as members of corporations, and obviously, Boardroom's going to need members of to help support that as well. I just feel like I've never been very drawn to that situation. I like thinking of the big picture. I need to be making decisions and being involved in the process from that regard. So
Why is that? You feel like your parents play a role?
Interesting question. Funny enough, I think it's actually because not necessarily my parents, but my sister, my oldest sister. So she's a writer, and I remember when she was in university, she was like, she studied international studies, and she said, I want to build my brand and start like a business writing. And she's 10 years older than me, and I watched as she like got her name out there. Like sat and wrote for articles. I don't even remember, like, for not that much in the beginning. And then I watched as it slowly grew, and like she, managed her own schedule and became really well known in the tech space because she was often a technical writer. And it just really inspired me because to be so young and to see somebody take what often people will say might not be the most lucrative path, and then turn it into something where she's completely like, sustaining herself and more than that, and doing what she loves. Right, and so I think that really was the biggest driving factor in me.
Interesting. So your sister's like one of your biggest role models.
Yeah, one of my biggest role models. Shout out to Nia.
Any other role models you got? Any famous people, like famous billionaires?
I really love Lena Khan, actually.
Lena Khan,
which probably is really antithetical to wanting to be an entrepreneur, but she's the head of the FTC in America, and a lot of the work that she does is really ensuring, like, enforcing antitrust laws. And I think what inspires me is that as the head of that, her capabilities is how can we make this more equitable to the citizens of America, right? How can we ensure that how can we enforce laws to make sure companies are working in a competitive space? And for me, it's the fact that she's super young, but despite that, she's really working for the people. And something for me is like I feel the biggest impact I can make is through my own work, right? And that's why it's amazing to be in a corporation. We both worked in corporations, and you're still doing, these are huge companies that really drive the world. However, you're still one person in like a mass, right? And for us, it's like, we like making decisions fast, and we like working on those decisions quickly and keep on iterating and moving fast. And so that capability is not something you're going to get in a lot of places except in a startup. And so I want to be able to get to a point where I can start leveraging that kind of impact of a startup and of that capital to start making changes that will positively impact other people.
I feel like that's like the one unique spot where you have full control. However, at the same time, it does become into like you go from a 9 to 5.
We're like working 9 to 5, 5 to 9.
9 to 5, 5
like,
to 9.
I'm studying full time. He's
I'm
in his
on
co-op.
co-op.
So it's
Yeah.
it's definitely intense. But I really I look forward to our sessions in the evenings because it's like we're finally getting back to working on something for ourselves. And I think something that I love doing everything. I'm very jack of all trades myself. And so working in a startup, I really get that opportunity. Like I go from like creating marketing content to then coding our website and then like reaching out to investors and doing financial modeling. And so I love the fact that I get to touch all of these areas. And so I become a more well-rounded person myself.
Yeah. And I really agree with that. Like that's the thing in a startup, like, or when you're building your own thing, you have the autonomy to move as fast or slow as you want. I mean, you shouldn't be moving slow, but you have the ability to move as fast as you want, right? Like often in large corporations, you can do as much work as you possibly can, but it's not going to translate into seeing that like substantial work actually becoming something in a short amount of time, right? Whereas when you're building your own thing, even if it is 12 to 7, 11 to 9, whatever it may be, you can see it as it evolves, as it grows. And that's not something that you can do, I say, in a regular 9 to 5, not necessarily the time per se, but the environment with which the time comes with. Although I do love all my co-ops.
Yeah. Shout out to the co-ops.
Shout out to all them.
So how do you manage, so you said you're doing all these things, right? How do you manage your time being at a top institute as like UofT, and you're at Waterloo? Very demanding. How do you manage your time?
I mean, I think accountability has been the most effective for me. So I did try, like, I'm doing full-time studies, right? And I need to be on top of my exams and assignment, et cetera. But it was really hard, like when you're at home and your bed is so close to you. And I'm also like, I love working on the company because it feels so much more directly impactful. While a grade is impactful, it doesn't feel as, like, I'm not seeing the movement I am. So what I did and what we're doing right now for our startup, it's like as soon as work's over, as soon as I'm done studying, he comes to here and we work together until like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. I think it's great that we have a good co-founder relationship, that it's enjoyable as well. Like we love the work we do. We also love working with each other. But then I just recently actually started this. I have a friend and we work 9 to 5 together and we study. And so it's just because I have somebody else that keeps me accountable, I'm not only just, I have to lie in bed, I can do whatever I want. It's like she's showing up at my door. Now I don't have a choice but to get in and start studying.
Accountability partner. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta start doing that.
Yeah, it works. You can join our study sessions. Like, let me know.
I think for me, I'm actually very glad that Esther's very organized and has a calendar and whatnot, because I've never been a calendar person. I keep a lot of things in my head. But I think what helps me is my answer is a little less refined. I think what helps me is, first, I've never imagined a future where this wasn't going to be a success. So I think when you create and envision that within your mind, it's often that there's not much of a need for me to have to balance or organize it, because I wouldn't say constantly thinking about it, and I'm not saying constantly thinking about it is a bad or a good thing, but it keeps it at the forefront of my mind.
You said, like, I'm not going to give a refined answer, and gave the most, like, impactful, beautiful sentence
Not
ever.
done yet. Not done yet, because this part is our vibe.
Get away with words.
I'm also a firm believer in scheduled cries.
Oh.
Yeah. You know what?
Honestly?
In my calendar, twice a month, you gotta let it out, because it's
Also,
like,
now you have a calendar.
or not like in like my mental calendar, in like my mental calendar. Scheduled cries are everything.
Scheduled cries.
Scheduled
I've never
cries.
heard
My
of that.
friends laugh at me all the time when I say it, but you know what, you gotta love, because it's actually the psychology papers, they back it up. Okay,
Oh,
it's
really?
it's a stress
so
reliever.
cool.
Okay, the time it hits, you do it, you get right back to work. Wipe.
Wipe.
Right back to my desk.
What if there's nothing to cry about, though? There's always
There's
something.
always something to cry about. When
then.
you're
Do we need to talk about it?
I'm joking, but in like a better answer to that is like I think emotional management is really important.
Yeah.
I think it's often people find themselves not willing to, what I call it is feel their feelings, and if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to have the time or the energy to do anything else. So I think make spaces for that. For me, it might be scheduled crying. For somebody else, it might be a bowl of ice cream. Don't know if I recommend it, but that might be their thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I think having some sort of emotional management system
Yeah.
helps to organize everything else.
Yeah. I think physical management is big too because it gets so easy to burn out and like run yourself to the ground and so like making time for like I'm gonna play tennis with this person at this time or I'm gonna make sure I have meal prep for the day or the week. It sounds so minuscule, but it's so important to ensure our greater productivity when we're working together.
So for innovators, then were you guys were you guys like burnt out before or because they came second place actually, so congratulations with that.
Thank you.
Second place for innovators then. So how'd you deal with that, the stress with pitching to these billionaire investors? Like Sam Ibrahim was there.
Yeah.
He was a lot of other big names, Rohel Khan and them. Like when you got up on stage and you were presenting, I watched it. It was amazing.
Thank you.
How'd you get all the jitters out? How'd you prepare?
I don't know. I love to yap, honestly.
Yeah, that's right.
And I will be honest. In first year at university, I had a class called Management Communications, and I had a professor, Mr. Howard, and he traumatized, I think, the whole class by the end of it. And there was a point where he had said, "Esther, you're not talking loud enough." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "Go to the front of the class." And I was like, "Okay." And then he said, "Say the sentence for me." And I was like, "Okay." And so I say the sentence. He goes, he has a decibel counter, and he goes, "It's not loud enough. Say it again." And I had to say it again.
That's crazy.
He goes, "That's not loud enough. Say it one more time."
Yeah.
And so I had to keep going louder. And by the time I was screaming.
Yeah.
And so, but I feel like, and it was so embarrassing and shameful. It was kind of crazy, traumatizing, really. But by the end of it, I came out stronger because realistically, if I have to scream in front of a class, end of the day, like now I'm just becoming a better speaker. And if I need to go in front of any audience now, I'm really not worried about it because I can only focus on how well I'm performing. And it doesn't matter if I'm speaking to my little brother or I'm speaking to a crowd of judges. I just have to focus on providing the best presentation and most effectively communicating what I'm saying. And so I think letting go of the fact of what are they thinking, how could this impact me, and just focusing on what's the best presentation I can provide has really enabled me to do well.
Nice.
I'm also a yapper, but beyond that one, I think what really helps me, because I think I can agree, Esther and I do, as much as we seem like, like we're confident and ready to talk all the time, we do have, moments where we feel a little nervous. And I think what helps me is this thought of whoever I'm presenting to or talking to, whether it be, I don't know, like a prospective job or internship, or whether it's pitching to billionaire investors, is often I think they need me as much as I need them. If you're running an internship program, you're looking for interns. If you're an investor looking for, or if you're running a pitch competition, you're looking for cool companies to invest in, And if you put yourself on that level playing field, you not only have more confidence in your idea, but you also have more confidence in yourself.
Yeah. And, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's all I got.
No, I was just saying, and to add on to the point of level playing field, because networking is big too, and a lot of people come to me and go, "How do you network? How do you do?" But it's like you're just talking to a human being.
Yeah.
End of the day, if you have $1 billion or $1, you are a human being with a family and interests and like the hobbies. And so I love to find out about the human being, and I'm really not worried about all these extra things. And so when I talk to these people, I just consider them like I can learn so much from you. But end of the day, like when we're in the grave, no body is better than the other.
Wow.
And so
I guess I'm philosophical. I thought when you said whatever the first one was, and then interest, I said, why is she bringing their debt into this? I said, oh wait. Yeah, because I thought you were talking about like
and I think something effectively that we do as a team as well is like we will talk it out any doubts that we have. And so we always go together as a team with the same mission and vision. If there's even one slide that it's like, wait, I don't understand why we put up that number, we will talk it out until we both understand it completely. Exactly. And so we're always on the same page, and there's never been a point where it's like, what is he talking about? Or I'm going in unsure. And that's back to like really, I need to know what I'm presenting. That's it. And once you know what you're presenting, I think the rest comes. You're passionate about your product. You're passionate about what you're talking about. So as long as we're a team and aligned, then I think we're good.
So going back to Boardroom, how do you deal with, because on Zoom, right, there's people that cheat, right?
For
Ah,
sure.
you bring up
How do
like
you
a,
Great,
how do you
great.
deal with
Yeah.
people that have another person on the phone telling them what to answer? How do you
Yeah.
deal with that?
that is like a concern a lot of potential customers brought up or clients brought up, and really it becomes a how good is our tech to detect that, and so we've really been researching ways in which we can implement those anti-cheating systems. I know once I took a Microsoft Azure certification, and I've never seen this before. Like, I just got up to close the door and they closed the whole exam.
Wow.
That was had it like that was had it recorded, right? And I called them. We settled it in the end. But to see systems like that, right, like where you can't even move out of the frame, taking those and building on those, and making them more comprehensive so that people can't be answering the phone. Like, is there systems where you can detect light coming from different directions, perhaps? All of those methods and all those systems, we've been exploring that and seeing how we can best make it so that like there is true trust in the fact that this student has demonstrated their capabilities. And I think that's going to be extremely important, especially in ensuring that we have the trust of these companies who are giving us essentially the go-ahead to say, oh, these candidates are exceptional.
Interesting. So, what about a follow-up system? Have you guys thought of that? Like, for example, you reach out to the company automatically and ask them, is the employer that is the person that you hired, were they a good fit? And then you rate them on a scale from 1 to 10. This is just one of my ideas, maybe.
Oh,
that you
100%.
can-
I mean,
yeah.
that's how you keep getting money. I'm just sorry,
Yeah.
not money. How you maintain a customer relationship,
Yeah.
right? Because we don't want to just hire one co-op for this company.
Yeah.
We want it to be continuous,
Continuous.
right? Like every term, if you want a co-op, we want that success. So in the initial, we get that customer loyalty, and then from there, we just want to provide the most qualified candidates and especially in a space where so many baby boomers are right now leaving the industry, and especially in the automotive industry, in aerospace, etc. These are cycles and projects that are super long, and so you need people who are going to consistently be performing, and that should start from university age. We do it in business. People are starting to recruit first and second year, so why is that not similar in such important spaces as well? And so in that area, we want to provide the best quality interns, but on a consistent basis. So to your point, like definitely we'll have a follow-up system, and we hope to really maintain those relationships.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah. And the follow-up system, I think, is really important for where we want Boardroom to head, Like, Boardroom does not just stop on the idea we have now. We have visions for it to be, is it possible that we can, start implementing these internship programs and sourcing this talent, like, directly for these companies? Like, oh, when Boardroom reaches a certain point, go to so-and-so SMB or so-and-so mid-sized company or so-and-so enterprise, who knows, and say, we'll set up the entire internship structure for you, because we already now have these systems in place that will be vetting for the most qualified candidates. We're removing that risk from the hiring game, and really when it comes to exiting out of, like, the market's been very tough, especially for like technical talent, but now that we're exiting that, I think the thing that's really going to separate a successful company from an unsuccessful company is how well they can pipeline that talent. And Boardroom wants to be able to support companies in doing that.
And HR is hard. I mean, when you're starting a company or you have a mid-sized company, you're not thinking, how can I get like the best talent at the first beginning, right? When you're starting a company, oftentimes they don't even have a dedicated HR team, right? And so it's a huge space where you still want the best talent, but you don't have the funds perhaps or the people to access that or resource it. And
Time,
it's
knowledge.
hard to begin.
Yeah.
And so
You're probably just thinking,
providing-
I need a software developer
facts.
tomorrow. Like, you're not thinking about
Yeah,
what type of
exactly.
software developer you're gonna get.
I want to go back to a little bit of your personal. How do your families feel about you doing this?
That's a good question. I think at first, my mom and dad were very, they were interested in the idea. They were like, oh, what's this cute little project he's working on, But I think as we became more serious about it, and, with Entrepreneurial Den, or Association. Yeah, Entrepreneurial Den. Innovators Den.
Yeah,
The names are
sorry.
getting confusing in my head. And we also participated in Waterloo's Cornerstone, where we won the grand prize there as well, the Jane Family
wow.
Entrepreneurship Award. And I think, they always believed. I think people's families always believe. And I always say this, like, even if often, like, I once gave a talk for talking to a bunch of students who were about to enter university, and they were like, oh, like, I want to do marine biology, but my mom wants me to be a doctor. And I'm like, they always believe in what you want to do. You just have to demonstrate, A, that you're serious, and B, that it would make you happy, right? Their fear comes from the fact that, you're not going to be successful or enjoy doing what you're doing. And I think, I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I think from my perspective, when I make that clear, it resonates. Even if at first there's that pushback. But that pushback doesn't come from them thinking you can't do it. That pushback comes from them thinking, is this even what they actually want to do? And I think if you push back against that.
For sure. Yeah, and to your point, like, I like to use baking as an example, but again, like I said, I'm a jack of all trades, so that also goes into hobbies. Like, I would sew, and then the next day I'm painting, and the next time I'm skateboarding, and I'm like, can I get a skateboard, or can I get a saxophone? And so my parents aren't going to spend $200 or $300 on a saxophone or a skateboard for me, right? But there are some things where they would, and what's that difference? Why would you not get me a skateboard, but you would get me a KitchenAid mixer? Well, I said I really wanted to try baking, right? And I started baking, and I started baking for a week, and they were terrible cookies, by the way. But then I kept going, and I've been baking maybe for like 7 years now.
She makes great cookies now.
Thank you. And so, like, by the end of it, it was like, this is a consistent dedication and something that I'm really working towards. Not working towards, but it's something that I love, and I'm really putting my time and effort into. And so they're willing to invest in it, and they're willing to give me that KitchenAid, right? And so that's just really a big example. We've been talking about doing a company for a long time. My parents this is not a new idea to them. However, I think recently, and they're always like, what are you doing at school, or all these things? But when every day I come home at 10 p.m. and I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, you won't believe what I had to do today. They're like, you know what, maybe she really is onto something. And for anyone, like, you still need these like tangible things for belief. And I think coming out of these competitions and really getting these, like, really, it's an honor that people see potential in us as well. But as a result, I think that further validates the fact that this is something that they care about and are passionate about, and like really blessed to have a family that supports that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Having a strong family unit
Yeah,
that
100%.
supports you is so important.
1,000,000%.
How are you guys going about finding investors?
I think right now we're looking to bootstrap. So we're actually funding this through competition wins. So like we just got around like $5,000 from Waterloo, and then we won at Entrepreneurship Association. And so because we're doing a technical product and we're really looking at, is it open source, or can we get this data from like a free environment? And so as a result, we're really pushing to not try to dilute our cap table yet. And so right now we're just working, can we create our best MVP without any further investment? And then I think as we develop and want to scale, that's kind of when we'd start opening up into investment.
Interesting. Dilute your cap table? For most people don't know what
Yeah,
that means.
for sure. Honestly, like, I was like, where did that come from? I said it.
Probably
I was
about 3
like,
weeks ago.
it's not LinkedIn post, probably. No, that's saying right now equity is just split between 99, and so if you add an investor into the mix, they might want 10%, 15, 20%. And so as a result, now our equity is reduced. It's not really a money thing, but more so, why give away shares in your company if or parts of your ownership over your company if you don't need that investment? Obviously, sometimes it's not money based, right? And then it's so tangible to have people who can really support your idea and mission, whether that be through advice, whether that be through connections. There's a lot of areas here, but at the moment,
Just not yet.
right now, we're just focusing on creating the best product.
Esther and I got really lucky because I think our skills are very complementary to one another. You know, we have technical, we have business. And I think that makes it, I wouldn't say easy, but it makes it possible to create the product with what we have now and to market the product with what we have now. And I would say also, you know, I've seen a lot of people interested in starting, and they'll stay within their groups of like knowledge base. I think it's very important to diversify the knowledge base when you're seeing, who am I thinking of starting this with, and not just their knowledge base but also who you get along with. I think Esther and I have great chemistry. And we're also really good friends, right? So like that makes it easy to, you know, do pitches and have a conversation with people and build off of each other's ideas. And I think both technical and like who you are as a person both should play a role, and that could help you in avoiding diluting your cap table for as much.
I mean,
as
we didn't know half of this stuff before we started, but then I have full trust. If I was like, we need to build an AI model, let's figure it out, that we will figure it out. And every time we've set a goal, we seem to have figured it out. And I think it's just the fact that we are determined to consistently try to deliver as much as possible within our capabilities. And I think there is, to your point, like, we're very lucky to have those kind of skills that we can be more adaptable for any type of thing that we need. And I think another point is really, like, in this day and age, it is maybe one of the easiest times to build a company. things are so accessible, right? Like even for coding before, like I did some coding, but I wasn't a massive coder. However, with AI, I mean, now I don't have to focus on if I know if there's a bracket here, right? I just need to understand the logic and read it properly. And so in that same area, if you want to talk about marketing, I mean, viral social media, it's the ways to get things done in a business and market to customers have never been easier. And so I think right now we're just focusing within these capabilities that exist in today, what can we do? What can we maximize?
That's good. I mean, you guys are probably using ChatGPT a lot, right?
Oh,
Just
best
give
friend.
me-
My best friend.
Third co-founder.
Thank you,
Some
Sam
ideas.
Altman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a game
Our
changer.
third
Yeah.
co-founder.
Too good.
Should have been on the podcast as
No
well.
facts. No, I
He
think
couldn't make it today.
Yeah. So where do you guys see the company going in like 5 years?
This conversation. I mean,
You guys are you guys planning to venture out to different sectors or just staying towards engineering?
absolutely venturing into
Yeah,
different sectors. I think this is like a big need in the technical space in general. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely software and data are taken care of. However, even then, like we really need to talk like these long-term industries, aerospace, automotive, manufacturing, etc. They are long-term projects and things that people need to commit to. And while they have amazing PhDs and scientists and etc., like you never think about that when you're recruiting for a university student. However, if you want the strongest people by the end of your project, by the end of the time you like create the best car or a rocket, you need to think about that in the early stages. And so that's something that is not just prevalent in electrical engineering, but rather in so many areas. And we do hope to continue expanding as a result. So
Yeah.
I think that's what we plan.
To
But
put it simply,
sorry, go ahead. No, you're good.
Okay. To put it simply, I just want them to think, like these large industries, small industries, medium-sized industries. I want them, if they say, I want recruiting and engineering to be synonymous with Boardroom. And I think that's really what we're aiming for in the next 5 years.
But like to your point about long-term planning or strategy, we're both very I think our best skill is just being strategic about things and how we can plan and effectively use a situation. We're not exploiters. That sounds so problematic. How can we exploit a situation? No, not like that. Just understanding what the next steps are going to be. And so we tend to really be like, we should do this and then do this. And so when we used to talk in our really early conversations before we started a company, it was super like, and then in 5 years we're gonna rule the world, and after that we're gonna be billionaires. But the reality is, you get so caught up in this idea of what you're going to achieve that you miss the now. And so right now we found something super effective is we set goals for sprints, like in 10 days, in 2 weeks, in a month, let's achieve this. And we work our best on achieving that in a month. And so now we're focusing more on the do than the what will we do, right? And that's been really, thank you. And so that's what we've been, I think, a huge learning for us, especially as people who tend to be like, everybody loves a story. Everyone loves to talk about the things that they're going to do. But that's the difference, right? How many people are actually doing those things? And so we're focusing more on the do. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So how far is the MVP?
So right now we have the soft skills model is progressing pretty well. We have the communication aspect completed, organization of thought, like the way it can draw from those other soft skills. It definitely can still be improved, and that's what we've been working on as well. In terms of technical, we've been working on a model that would help with like assessing candidates for debugging questions, for example. So how well can they manipulate a PCB, understand a PCB, find the problem in a PCB? Lots of PCB things. And then I would say, I think those are the two things, right? So those are like the two main things that we've worked on. And they're really just like progressing, like they're working, but they can be better. And we're hoping that they're better in
I see.
a short amount of
So
time.
how many months you feel like it'll be until it's like fully ready?
Fully ready. I'm gonna say 2.
Yeah, we're aligned.
Say 2.
So that's the thing. We were just finishing a product validation stage. So when we were at Waterloo and we were doing a competition, they said every team was given a quest to do.
Yeah.
And for us, they were like, okay, just validate with 10 people and validate with a few companies. And so we went ahead and we spoke to them. We really saw that need in the market. And we pivoted a bit. That's why we added our soft skills model. But then by the end of it, he goes, okay, how about you actually try making a sale? That's the best way to do validation. I mean, it was 10 days in and we had an idea. But we were really lucky, like by the end of it, we were actually talking to people who were willing to invest in our first pilot. And so I think people tend to not believe in what they can achieve in a limited time frame. So, but as a result, we've been really iterating in 10 days. And I think our next goal is just have our MVP done in a few weeks. And then from there, if we set the goal, it'll happen.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So you guys are going B2B mostly, right?
Mostly B2B,
Yeah.
but again, like there is B2C. Like if you're a student who wants to improve on their technical skills, then you still have the opportunity. But we never want to make it not accessible to students, right?
Yeah.
And that's a goal. Like I think education and really the democratization of that is so important. And so we have a free tier. It's freemium. It's really $8 if you really want to be hardcore about it, but that's not our main revenue.
$8?
$8 a month if you were
Okay.
like
For
I
like
want,
premium student.
if you want analytics and more questions,
Yeah.
et
More
cetera.
questions,
But
yeah.
no, mostly
But the main
B2B.
revenue driver is the B2B.
B2Bs. How much are you guys charging the B2B?
That will be on like a business-to-business basis, on
business,
like
okay.
the conversations for sure. So
Yeah.
we haven't
Probably
set that yet.
often they're customized solutions, right? So it also depends on how difficult that solution may be.
Mhm. Oh, interesting.
Mhm.
So if an investor wants to find you guys,
Yeah.
what would be the best way to connect?
I mean, I'm a business student. LinkedIn is the best for me.
That's my
Okay.
social media.
Just really that on Instagram. So,
So we'll pop on their
for
LinkedIn's
sure.
and Instagrams
yeah,
on the screen.
Awesome.
And yeah, it was amazing having you guys.
Yeah, it was
I learned so
fantastic.
much. I think you guys are going really far.
Mhm.
Thank
You
you.
guys are really good at talking, really
Thank
good
you.
at speaking. So
Professional yappers.
Professional yappers, yeah.
Hopefully
Yeah.
the next time you see us, Boardroom is like a
Biggest
synonymous
thing.
name across the board.
100%,
Across
yeah.
the board.
Yeah, we'll try making that happen. You know, that's our goal for
Awesome.
Tech Founders.
Yeah,
you
and you're
know?
doing an amazing thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's super
Mhm.
cool. So thanks so much for having us.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. If you made it this far, well, I'd really appreciate if you can, hit the like button, subscribe. You know the drill, and let us know in the comment section if you guys want us to improve on anything, ask certain questions, all that. Just put it in the comment section, and yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.